My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here with Me Cool People, and today we have a more recent friend that I have gotten to hang out with a few times, and we hit it off immediately. We've talked all kinds of geeky stuff. We talk about the history of all the tech stuff that we do together, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to give you an introduction to Kalli Fedusenko, and she has over 10 years experience in the financial planning industry. She's a former position as a digital marketing coach for the FPA, formerly licensed with a Series 7 and 63. And the whole point of all of that stuff is because it gives her a great insight into helping her clients, who tend to be financial advisors, understand the practice and objectives for themselves. And she specializes in helping them with their brand strategy, web content strategy, video content planning, and a whole lot more. So with that, Kalli, welcome to the show.
Hi, Eli. It's so great to be here. I'm very excited.
It's a lot of fun. Yes. And we just spent almost a half an hour chatting before we actually started the show. We're like, oh, we should probably record a show now, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, I don't know how many of these episodes you've listened to, if any at all. And I won't even ask you to answer that one. But that's where a lot of these shows end up. It's like, oh, yeah, we really should have hit record a half an hour ago, but we finally remembered to. Mm-hmm. So thanks for coming and hanging out. I had the pleasure of actually being a guest for the show that you do for your clients just recently, which was a lot of fun. I had a blast. You and I had a great conversation with it. Tell us a little bit more about, I know you work with financial advisors, but tell us a little bit more about how you really work with them and what does that look like?
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned my licensing earlier and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I was licensed.
All those things we forget about that we did.
I know. And oh my gosh, it took me 9 months to go through the course and take the test. And it was truly awful for me because a lot of that does not come naturally. Mm-hmm. The marketing and the communication pieces, that's what comes naturally, not the financial planning parts.
So let me ask you real quick then, because that just opens up a can of worms. Did you go through that in order to actually become a financial advisor, or did you do it to know the industry better?
I'll tell you what I did it for.
Okay.
A raise.
Okay. Well, that's fair. Totally fair. I got it. All right.
But then at that point, I was like, well, I really know the industry, right?
Right.
And then when I made the decision to go out on my own, it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to stick with the financial industry. Mm-hmm. So what I do with advisors is we do some consulting, figure out what it is that they need based off of the results they're seeing or have seen. What have they tried before? What were they unhappy with? What were they happy with? And then we kind of decide what areas I can help with, or other people that I know that can help them with those areas. Typically what I focus on is building their websites, creating a brand, or an all-encompassing content plan.
Right.
Now, if there are other specific things they're looking for, I have a slew of people I know that I can then connect them to. Someone came to me recently and they were like, yeah, I'm looking for coaching. And then we talked about what precisely they wanted coaching on. And I was able to connect them with someone who did exactly that.
Nice.
So it was fantastic. That's where my live stream has really come into play, is I've got to meet so many wonderful people like you, Eli. So now if I have someone who comes to me and they're like, I really want to focus on the automations, I'm like, I know a guy.
Right. Yeah. And it's cool when you've got that point. And for what you're doing, I always find it funny where people just jump in and it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do all these things for anybody and everybody. Mm-hmm. And, so many people just don't get it. So, I mean, this, web designers are a dime a dozen. You know, digital marketing people are a dime a dozen. How do you stand out from that? I mean, my background was in web design originally as well.
Yeah.
And what I find is back then there wasn't hardly any competition, so I could say that I work with everybody.
Right.
And I had fun with it because I got to see like I had literally the AutoZone of airplanes to people who did custom woodworking to coffee shops and everything in between. So it was a lot of fun. But nowadays you got to do something, you got to stand out, and you've got to really find your niche. And what I think is great is that you found the niche of something you were really very, very well versed in to
Yeah.
begin with. You didn't
Right.
hunt down, oh, financial advisors have money, so I'm going to go after them. It's like, no, this
Right.
is the industry that I know. That's why I'm going to go after them. It's a very
Exactly.
different game.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, to be fair, I did start out doing everything for everybody.
Yeah, most of us do at some point.
Yeah. And then as you go, you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on these different things, either these specific services or this specific industry. Or in my case, I decided I'm going to focus on these services in this industry.
Nice.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, well, and I think you made a smart move with that, because that is what helps you stand out, and because you have the experience. Like, I don't remember if you and I talked about this when I got into the automation stuff. I got into it because I was building it for myself as a speaker, and that's who my audience was for the longest time. And I spent over 15 years where speakers and coaches were exclusively my audience.
Yeah.
Now I've ranged out to a lot of different industries now too, but I'm doing that now. When I started, that's all I went after, and that kept me going for a long time. And it was great because people are like, well, what is it that makes you different from everybody else? I'm like, all the stuff you're trying to complete is the stuff that I built for myself.
Yep.
That's why it works.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. So when when a client comes to you, where are they currently at? Like, what is the pain point that they really have? And because I'm sure you've got a little bit of a variety on that, but most of them probably have the same frustration and complaint that they've got going on.
There's a few. So things that you would hear someone say would be like, we want to try something new, because historically advisors have grown their business through asking for referrals. Actually, only half of them probably even ask. They grow through referrals.
There's a lot of referrals or financial advisors out there.
Right. So they grow by organic referrals, I'll say. Right. So there's not a lot of, up until the last 5 years, probably, there hasn't been a lot done outside of, we grow through referrals. And a lot of the older advisors didn't see a need to change. Hey, we've gotten to this point. Why should we do anything different? Now that we've got some newer advisors who are coming up, they're ready to try new things. Of course, that means there aren't always good players out there. And sometimes they have poor experiences with other people who, are starting out new and maybe charging too much, or, just not experienced. So the two things would be either they're trying to try something new, or they've had a bad experience with somebody and they're familiar with me and they know that I have background in the financial industry. So they feel safer coming to me.
Yeah, no. And that's a big one. And I think that's really big because, and you and I were talking about this. It's like, there's so many people that do digital marketing in so many aspects out there. There's a lot of bad sheep out there. I mean, let's just be honest about it. And I agree with you. A lot of them charging way more than they should. Definitely don't have the experience that they think that they really should have.
Right.
And I think that one thing that's really good, and you and I have talked about this previously, was like with me, I tend to work with a lot of people in that financial world as well, not just financial advisors, but also like family office and investors and stuff like that.
Right.
And I found that I've got, I know the industry pretty well. And I know one of the things that, and I want to bring this up for you because I think this is a really big one that we can talk about, is you have a niche that helps in, like with financial advisors, they have compliance issues.
Oh my
And
gosh,
that's a
yes.
huge one that
Yes.
everybody freaks out about. And the great thing is you know how to deal with that.
Exactly. So I worked internally for firms before going out on my own, which is when I got licensed. And I'm quite familiar with compliance. In fact,
Mhm.
I was so familiar that they knew me by name because not everybody would do this. But if something came up and I was like, I would push back sometimes, like, I think this is okay, or you've approved something before, and I think that this should
Mhm.
also be approved for this reason. And so they got to know me pretty well, uh, for better or worse.
Yeah, you
Uh,
call them up and they're like, "Hi, Kalli, what do you need now?"
yep, exactly, exactly.
I love it.
But I am familiar with what will fly, what won't fly, and I've built into my services uh, compliance review and the time that it's going to take to edit for the compliance review. Like that's
Mhm.
all included in our flat rates because
Nice.
why make it harder than it needs to be?
Right. No, I love that. That is awesome. So, and like, I want to kind of go down that rabbit hole a little bit because I think,
Yeah.
like, I know there are people that are listening to me that have those kind of issues, whether it be in the financial industry. I know we've got some of those listening, but also other
Mhm.
arenas where compliance is a big issue.
Yeah.
What are some
Health
of the big things
insurance,
that they
real
need?
estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What are some of the big things that they need to be aware of, and how do they get through some of this stuff? Um, without having to freak out about it, because I know so many people, they just won't even try because they're afraid of compliance.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
kind of set the stage for people for a minute and just what is it that you can really do
Mhm.
without having to worry about that quite so much.
Mm. Disclose. Everything should have some sort of disclosure, right? On top of that, at least in the financial world, stay away from pictures of money. You never want to be promising that someone is going to make a return. You don't even want to imply it. Some other things would be you always want to say words like help, like using it as an adverb, like can help you plan, can help you retire. You don't want to say we will help, or you will retire, um etc. Which, and I think that is where other marketing professionals, when they come in and are helping, aren't as familiar with those types of requirements. And it's very commonplace that messaging will be, you're going to see XYZ by working with us. And you just can't say that in a regulated industry like the financial industry.
Nice. I love it. And that is, it is so true. It's so funny because as you're going through some of the words,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I guess part of the reason why I've been so good at helping clients in my area that are in those kind of situations is because of the simple fact
You
those are the
naturally
kind
say
of
it.
those are the natural words, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I am making any promises. There's too many variables that could
Right.
go wrong. I mean, it's like
Right.
it's like when a client comes to me, he's like, well, what kind of guarantee do you have? I guarantee I'm going to do the work, but I can't guarantee that the results will be there because, I had one client, we just launched a whole new thing with a whole new business, and then 9/11 happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, so, and obviously everything,
Everything
everything
changes.
crashed at that point. So
Yeah.
there's things that are out of your control. You can't be making guarantees if there's too many variables outside of your control,
Oh yeah.
And so I've always played on that safer side to begin with. And I guess maybe that's probably why when my
Hmm.
clients come to me, the stuff that we do has always been approved with no problem. The funny thing
Right.
is, the way I do it, it's very non-pitchy. It's all about the conversation, which
Mm-hmm.
is hilarious because when compliance gets it, they look at it and go, "Why are you even doing this? This is stupid," because they don't understand the power of it.
Right.
But they're like, "Well, I can't say no because there's nothing
Because you're
wrong
not
with
saying,
it."
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
It is. And another thing is, it doesn't have to go to compliance if it's less than three people who are receiving it.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess that would make sense. I know we always look at the bigger picture of how many other people are going to go after it too. So, or how, it's like how many people are we sending this email out to? Just you and 5,000 others.
Right. It's no biggie.
No, that is very cool. So, you're doing websites, you're doing brand strategy,
Mhm.
content, video. Let's talk about the video side for a
Mhm.
minute, because I
Yeah.
know that's a piece that everybody in general tends to be a bit more scared of doing anyway. But
Mhm.
for somebody that's in that kind of industry,
Mhm.
obviously we have the compliance kind of stuff. So, what are
Yes.
some of the things we need to really? How do we get? How do we handle that one?
Yeah, it's a little more complicated. So the video that I do is all part of a package deal. I don't do it individually. Individual videos, I like to recommend one of our partners, Idea
Mhm.
Decanter. Um, but if I'm working with someone, I usually have them film on their phone. They send us the video, and then we edit it into something where I'm going to remove anything they say that I'm like, ooh, that's a compliance red flag.
Mhm.
Um, However, some advisors, depending on the firm, they have to write a script, submit the script to compliance first, then after it's approved, then record it, then submit it again. And then they might have you add some disclosures to the videos. So it kind of depends how restrictive your firm is as
Right.
to what you can and can't do.
Right.
Um,
That just sounds painful to me.
yes,
As for
it
somebody
is.
who doesn't do a script, I usually like my when I go to do my videos, it's like 1, 2 sentences max. Usually it's like, here's my topic, and then I just talk. So be
Mm,
like, I'm gonna have to transcribe it, send it to them, and keep my fingers crossed that they okay it because I already have it
right.
recorded because that's the only way I can do it.
Yeah. And then it becomes really challenging. Like live videos, I mean, obviously you can't script that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
or interviews. Sometimes I can't remember the exact requirements they have if you're going on to a podcast as a guest. Like you can do it, but you have to submit like what the topic is going to be prior, maybe
Mm-hmm.
not exactly what you're going to say. And then there's still a chance after it goes out you might not be able to share it because maybe you
Mm-hmm.
said something that they're like, oh, that wasn't good.
Got it.
So
So you
yeah,
still
it
have to,
exists,
even if it
but
goes live, like say our show goes live,
mhm.
you would have to submit it to them.
Yes,
Then they could say, "Oh no, you can't talk about this."
right.
And okay,
And then
okay,
be like, well, you can't share it now. But I mean,
uh,
obviously it still exists out there because we were live, but
right, okay,
I can't put my name to it.
right, got it. All right, that's
Yeah.
an interesting way to look at it. So let's talk about you got your show that you do
Mhm.
that I got to be a guest on. Was it
Yeah.
just a week ago? It was very
I
recent.
think it was. Yeah,
Everything flies by so fast
it
nowadays.
does.
How did you? What was your decision to start doing that show? And give us kind of a little bit of background on that.
I had someone on my team who I was talking about, like, yeah, usually when I do speaking, I get some sort of lead from it. And they're like, well, why don't you do your own show? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, that's a lot. And they're like, don't worry, people will show up. And I was like, okay, well, maybe. And then I knew I wanted to use the acronym AUM
Hmm.
because in the financial world, it's assets under management. And I just thought it was really clever. And I knew, like, okay, M for marketing and A, ask. And for whatever reason, my brain could not come up with what you would be. I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know. And then the same person who was on my team who pitched the idea in the beginning was like, duh, ask us marketing.
There you go.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It started out as a monthly show,
Okay.
and then I moved it to weekly last year. Um, Mostly it's interviews. Sometimes I get on there by myself. I don't
Hmm.
prefer that because you maybe have experienced this. You just kind of feel like you're monologuing,
Right.
and I'm like, I don't
Yep.
really know if anybody's into this right now, or if I'm just,
Yeah.
off my rocker.
Totally understand that. That's why you don't get very many solo episodes of me on this show.
Uh-huh.
Exact same reason. Totally get it.
Yeah. So that's I do mostly interviews. Occasionally I'll do one by myself. And I wish I could say that I prepare more for the individual ones, but I usually go in with the idea and I'm like, okay, I'll talk about this. And then I get on there and I'm like, oh, wow, I really should have prepped more because this would be really good if I had a visual, and I didn't do that.
Yeah, but you figure it out. And, so as somebody, so like, I mean, I've been speaking since 2008, and any kind of speaking, it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. There are some where I want to be more prepared mostly because of the audience. Like if I know who's going to be there, that's a different kind of scenario. But there's a lot of times where I'll do something where it's just like, here's the the topic that's calling to me today, and I just ramble about it, and then I'll go back and I'll listen to it, and it's like, damn, that was pretty good. Okay, and you get that. I mean, that's just experience. That's a great thing about it, is that as you do it, your stuff, know you're good at what you're doing, and that what you're sharing is stuff that's going to help them. When you own that, everything else becomes a lot easier. And it's like, yeah, maybe if I did something like this again, I should have a handout or a slideshow or something to go with it. But this is good. And that's okay. That's the fun part. You can just have fun with it.
Yeah. And over the live show, I think it adds in that element of like, well, it's live. Like anything could happen.
Right.
And the show will change based on your interaction in the comments right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's see, like for me, I didn't jump with the live show because of the fact that I have that that twitchy feeling you get when you're not sure if people are actually paying attention or not.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That gets to me way too much. And I was like, yeah, we're not going to play that game. That's why I don't do very many lives. I've done, if I'm doing them for other people's show, love to do it. And I can do that all day long.
Right.
But my own show, I've done lives, and sometimes they're okay. I mean, they always turn out okay, but it's like, no, because I don't know who's going to listen. I don't know if I'm going to get some troll on there that's going to torment me, and I'm just not really in the mood. And then I talk myself out of it. So like with this, I do it. This is a, pre-recorded show for the very reason of I have it. We can have a great time. If I'm going to do a solo show, I can do that. And if I don't like it, I just hit delete and record it again. We're all good, but we don't have to worry about any of that other mental stress that comes on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've always played. So
I think I find it exciting, that part of it, like the live part of it.
Yeah.
I find the live part exciting. I actually like it more than the
recording. Yourself that way, going, good on you. But it's cool that you did it. And I know that you and I had a great conversation. We had a lot of fun. You made it very comfortable. It's one thing I have to say. And I gave you a LinkedIn review on this because it was as true as it was the fact that you made the entire experience was great from a standpoint as a guest. And the reason I want to bring this up is number one is to give you kudos for it, but two, to also let everybody know, by the way, you should, be more like Kalli. And as a guest of the show, I knew what was going on. You gave me a checklist to work with, an example of how I could, because you're using, was it Restream?
Yep. Restream.
And so how to share it live on my stuff along with your stuff. By the way, I don't think I told you this. I had somebody get on a call with me later that day who said that they caught that show and they thought that it was great. So they're like, I feel like I already know you really well because I watched that stream you did earlier. I love that. Yeah.
That's really exciting to me.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah. I knew I hadn't told you about that. So I wanted to make sure I didn't forget. But that kind of stuff really does, you have it together. You got it organized so well that me coming on the show, I was just like, and as a process guy, as a systems guy, I'm giddy over the fact that somebody's doing it right to begin with. But then I'm looking at it as a guest coming on the show, I'm just like, oh, and she just made it so easy for me. I didn't have to think about it. I just follow the steps and show up and have a good time, which is as a host, that's, or as a guest, that's what we want. Right.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I told you that, but also shared a bit of that stuff too. So people could kind of learn, if you're a host of a show, do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and, just like you were talking about with the speaking and kind of just have to get the reps in and the experience. I mean, it's kind of the same thing because as you fail, you're like, oh, that's what I need to change. Because I had a couple of guests who would come on or try to join and didn't share it to their platforms, but they thought that they did. And so that's why I recorded my screen and showed how to do it. And I think that even in the video, I'm like, oh yeah, and I didn't click this button right here and it's actually not connected. So make sure you do that.
Yep. I remember that bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great that you did that. And again, I wanted to say that because those are the kind of attention to details that really count. And for me, it's not even, related to the experience that you and I had, though that's where it came from.
Right.
But that also goes to show those are the type of details that people need to pay attention to in everything that they're doing.
Right.
And, you're talking about like what you do. Do you help any of your clients with like podcasting or any of that kind of stuff at all?
So before we got on this video, Eli and I were talking about choruses, and I started a chorus that I haven't finished because I was waiting for someone to give me some assets. Anyways, I have a chorus on podcast and what you should do after you're on, or after you record, sorry, based off of what I do for mine. I haven't put together like anything on the pre-planning, which is where a lot of my stuff comes in.
Right.
So not yet.
Okay.
That was a long answer to what
really a really long answer for no. Yeah. No, but it's cool because I think if your clients are at all interested, maybe like starting a podcast or anything, your system is great, and I love it. And I thought that I wanted to really highlight that because that's experience, and that's what people need. People need to have a great experience, and that's right. And that's what, if you're, whether you're a guest on a show or you're hosting your own show, both sides of the stream talk about that. You and I were talking about the podcasting course that I have on being a guest, right? The same process of how do you follow up? How do you track that stuff? How do you not look like an idiot when you try to submit to somebody else's show when you've already been on there 3 times? That kind of thing. And so these are the kind of things that are so important for people to think about. And it doesn't matter what industry, but I love the fact that you're doing that because that is showing by example the things that people should be doing.
Well, we had Sarah Losi, I think that's how to say her name. Yeah, she was on our show talking about how to be a podcast guest. And she made the point that some podcasts exist solely to connect with your guest. And so, the experience is really important, especially if that's your goal. And I think advisors, one perhaps missed opportunity would be a lot of them get referrals from estate attorneys and CPAs. And building on that relationship, I think doing a podcast or a live stream could really help with those solidifying those relationships, building that trust so that you get more referrals.
Yep. I have a client, actually, we just had this conversation this morning. He wants to start a podcast and he's going to start with bringing in his friends and his partners. Yeah. So, the people that he refers or that refer business to him, those kind of things, some of them are going to be his clients and he's going to start with that. But then the whole point is, number one, solidify the relationship, add that extra little oomph to it. But then on top of it, that's going to help get more referrals and he might get more people that become guests on the show, which could also become clients or partner and things like that. And he's got the basic plan together and he's like, okay, so can you help us with, figuring the podcast thing? Cause I wanted to do it for a while. I'm like, I got you. We're good. And so we're putting this stuff in place and it really that is a great way. And I'm glad that you brought it all up is because of the fact that, for somebody like financial advisors, you don't make it about financial planning in any way, shape, or form. You make it as a local business or, like for me, my show, this show right here is Me Cool People. The entire purpose is cool people that I meet that I think they're doing cool stuff. I love the personality. We hit it off. I want to continue the conversation and share it with the world. Yeah. That's why you're on this show right now is because you and I have had a couple of great conversations. They're like, yeah, she's cool enough. So we'll invite her on.
Yeah. She passes.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some that don't. Just, there are some. But reality is that is a great way. Like if you're in that financial advisor industry or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
you could do a show that has nothing to do with what you do, although your company could be the sponsor of it.
Yeah.
So have a little plug, which that obviously we need to go by compliance,
Yeah.
but that could be, a 15 or 10 or 15-second commercial that you interject either in the middle or in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing you talk about on that side. But then everything else is free game.
Yeah.
And you get a ton of fun. It's a great way to bring in some good prospects and
Right.
build those relationships.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. So definitely. So you should take that back and start having your guys do that. Very cool. So is there anything else? I mean, you've got the background with financial advisors, and I know that's who you help.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to working with them, is there anything else that you want to add that you think that they need to be aware of? They could be doing more of that they're not doing.
Yes. I don't know why this is the one, but I said this on another interview recently, is your Google business listing.
Okay.
It's frequently overlooked, not claimed, or if it is claimed, it's not updated. And that is prime real estate. Because when somebody is searching, those are the things that come up is, who is most local nearest you.
Right.
And then that's also going to help tremendously with SEO. So claiming those listings and adding as much as you can. You can even do like a little walkthrough of your office and add that as I think it's a 30-second video clip.
Mm-hmm.
We did that for a client and I don't even remember how many views they ended up getting on that. Nice. So, it's just like the little things that you feel like aren't a big deal, but can really pay off in the long run.
No, that is great. I love that. And that is great because like most of the clients that I've worked with in the past, like speakers and coaches, the Google listing is not going to do us any good. But for a lot of, for what you're doing, your clients, absolutely. And
yeah.
I can see how that can be easily overlooked. So that's a great one. Awesome. Yeah. Go ahead. You look like you got something else.
I was about to say something else. There was a Michael Kitchis study that was released about how prospects are uncomfortable about scheduling that first meeting because they don't know what to expect, which is another great reason to have like, here's my office. Here's how to, especially if you're working with older clients, because everybody says that, oh, we're looking for those pre-retirement people, the 50 to 60-year-olds. So adding in how to get to your office, because a lot of times it's a suite inside a bigger office and people are just nervous about that first meeting and what to expect. So anything you can do to take away that anxiety is just going to help.
I love it. That is awesome. And that's going back to that processes and systems thing. It's like, if you can make somebody feel more comfortable when they're getting ready to walk in the door, whether that's in person or virtually, that's a big thing. So I love that. Awesome. Very cool. Okay. Well, we are almost about time here. So I have two last questions for you. Last one's the easy one. How are people going to get a hold of you? So you can answer that in a second. But before that, this is the Meet Cool People show. So what do the words meet cool people mean to you?
Meet cool people means I get to meet people who are cool. And by cool, I mean there's something about them that makes me comfortable. Something about them that I find interesting. Something about them that puts me at ease. That's what I would say would make somebody cool. And I get to meet them through your show, which is really exciting.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love, and the cool thing is, they put you at ease. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, Kalli, thank you so much. Last question. Of course, I almost walked away from that one. How do people get a hold of you?
Kalli Collective, KALLI. So KalliCollective.com. My email is pretty easy. Kalli at KalliCollective.com. And pretty much just type Kalli on a social media and you'll probably find me.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Kalli, thanks so much for coming and hanging out today. It was a good time getting to hang out with you.
It was great. Thank you, Eli.
All right. And everybody else, get out there. Have an amazing day. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out and let me know. Take care.
And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.